Hi guys, hope you're doing well. This is the second installment of chapter 13 of Revelation. And if you haven't had a chance, please go back and watch the previous videos if you like them. Then like it and subscribe and share it with those you think can benefit from it. Share with your brothers and sisters in the Lord, and hopefully it'll be a blessing to you. And yeah, we'll just keep picking up and going from there. So basically, chapter 13 is an intriguing chapter because it touches on so many other prophetic chapters and elements that really is kind of unique that we don't see throughout other parts of prophetic text. So we're going to jump right into it and just keep going. I think we left off. We didn't really get that far, but it's amazing how much time you spend on such a little passages. But it is, like I said, one of the most intriguing chapters, so anyway, we'll jump in here and says I believe we left off in verses 5. It says, there was given to him a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemies, and an authority to act for 42 months was given to him. So we know for 3.5 years he's going to have ultimate power. And we know that from various ones. Chapter 11 goes into that. We also see that in Daniel chapter 7 and 8 and so forth, that he's going to have 42 months, 3.5 years of total power. But that doesn't mean he's not in power, because he has to confirm that covenant, that 7-year peace agreement, which is what we should be looking for, because that's the beginning of the tribulation period. We'll look at Daniel chapter 9 just so that we'll touch base on that. I think that's important. So Daniel chapter 9, and we'll jump in on verses 27. And he will make, the Antichrist, and we know that because it talks about that in the previous verse, and the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city of the sanctuary, which we know is Jerusalem, and the sanctuary being the temple. Again, I talked about, if you don't see the first installment of chapter 13, please watch that. And he says in 27, we'll pick up there, and he says, and he will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week, he will put a stop to sacrifices, a grain offering, and on the wing of abomination will come one who makes desolate, even until a complete destruction. One that is decreed is poured out on the one who makes desolate. So we know that he's going to confirm a covenant for 7 years. But in the middle of that, he's going to go in and break that. Now that's why, and we know that 1 week is decreed. It's the 70 weeks. The prophecy is a continuation of that 70 weeks. So we know for sure there's 7 years. And at 3.5 years of that, what we would call false peace is what it's commonly referred to as by most Christians. And it's during this period of time that it's leading up to this point where he goes in and declares himself to be God, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, where he goes in and declares himself to be God. And when he does, it causes the abomination of desolation, or it could be when he sets up this idol is also done about the same time frame, which causes the abomination of desolation. Apparently it's at about the 3.5 year point. So we know he's got 42 months left of total rulership. And it's during this part, which we call the Great Tribulation, in which you really see the fulfillment of a lot of what we talked about in prophecy. So, especially in Revelation, as we've gone through it, like I said, we're going through the 7 seals. Well, the 7 seals that is the prophecy, which is often confused because people try to break it up and say, well, those are judgments, and then you have the trumpet judgments, and then you have the seals, that is the prophecy. And these seals are being opened. The first 6 is like a summary of events that are taking place. It's kind of giving you an overview of all these things that will happen. Destruction of this, destruction of this, destruction of the seas, destruction of, the land. So many are going to die because of, war. So many are going to die because of famine. So many, it's giving you an overview of what's going to happen. Hey, during this period of time, there's going to be, global war. Hey, during this period of time, you're going to have the rise of the Antichrist, the white horse. You're going to have global war, the red horse. You're going to have, massive famine, global famine throughout the world because of it, the bell horse and so forth. And then you're going to have death, mass death will follow after that, the black horse, So when you start seeing these occur, or when you start seeing these events, as it's talked to us, we're leading up to the tribulation point. This is what it's talking about. So it's giving you an overview of all the things that are happening, first 6 seals. And then you get to 7th, and it really goes, it goes back, but it's starting to give you all the details within those events. So you don't, not to be confused. So the seventh seal is pretty much the entire Revelation, is when you look at it. I mean, it really goes into this, and this is where we get into 13. 13 is part of the seventh seal. All of it is. All the trumpets, all the bowl judgments, they're all falling within that seventh seal. It's basically just giving you the details of what's happened throughout what I explained in summary form of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth seal. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now, and it's giving you this overview of what's happening, or this detailed form of this Antichrist figure. He's coming on the scene. It's opening up Daniel chapter 9 and 8 and 7 and so forth. It's also, kind of reaching back and pulling up some information from Second Thessalonians, which was revealed through the Apostle Paul, and it's showing this to us in a more detailed fashion, which is extremely intriguing when you're studying it, and especially when you see what's going on in the world. So anyway, he comes on the scene, and 3.5 years, people are mesmerized by him. And I think, and before that, he's going to actually be recognized by, I think, the body of Christ to know he is. He's going to be revealed in the sense that we're going to know this guy's the Antichrist. And when he makes that 7-year treaty, that's the beginning of the tribulation, the final 7 years. And that's why when he's revealed, people should know, hey, within a short period of time, when he makes a covenant for 7 years, a huge word, 2/3 of all mankind at least are going to be dead within 7 years. And that's why it makes this so relevant. And not only are they dead physically, but spiritually, many of those will be lost. That's the sad portion. So what we're studying now isn't just fanciful thinking or wonderful stuff to go through, and it's really to motivate you, to inform you, and instruct you so that you can realize, hey, the hour's short, time is near. We need to be going and sharing the gospel with the lost and being faithful in our service to Christ. That's really what it's about. It's and to give us comfort to know God's in control. He's on the throne and he's ruling all things, and everything's happening according to his detailed plan. Nothing's happening by chance. The thing with COVID-19 and all stuff, nothing's happening by chance. God's in control of everything. And that's why we're not fearful about the things and events that are happening. I mean, it doesn't mean that we aren't careful or we aren't prudent in our actions. We don't go out there without, we wash our hands and we wear masks and so forth, but we're not fearful. We understand that the Lord's in control and nothing's going to happen without him allowing it to happen. He will fulfill every minute detail that we're going through and reading in Scripture, and you can absolutely bank on it and trust in it. And how do I know that? Because all the other prophecies were dramatically and directly fulfilled. We know that Jesus was born of a virgin. He was born in the city of David, of the tribe of Judah. He was killed and pierced through. He rode in on a donkey. He was resurrected on the third day. I mean, you go down the list of all those detailed prophecies. It was literally and specifically fulfilled down to the minute details. Same thing with this. We can absolutely trust that these things will be absolutely fulfilled, which also means it's so relevant for us to know this and be prepared to share the gospel with the lost around, that family members, the workmates, because we love them, we care about them. You don't want the people you work with, the people you live with, the people your family members to die and be lost for eternity. I mean, there's something that would be seriously wrong if you did. And as Christians, we're to love all people, including our enemies. We don't even want them to be lost, even though they may hate us for whatever reason, because I think they realize in their heart of hearts that they're lost, and they love their sin. But it's because we need to love even our enemies, as Christ said. And that means we don't want them to be lost. I wouldn't even want somebody as evil as we would consider Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin or Mao Zedong or these kind of people. I don't even want them to go to hell and spend eternity. Could you imagine eternity in hell? I mean, even though as horrible as what they've done is, and the actions that they did, and the amount of lives they destroyed, I still wouldn't even want them to be in hell. I mean, because it's that bad. When you start thinking about eternity in torment with no chance of parole, I mean, yeah, as Christians, we need to take it serious. So that's what we're doing in this study. This isn't just something that we go through for education purposes. It's we really take it serious and really think about, it should motivate us to go out and share the gospel with everybody around us, because we truly love them, we care about them, and don't want them to be lost. And I think the hour is very short. And if you as a Christian are probably listening to this, you're probably thinking, man, the hour is pretty short, and I need to be doing the same thing. We need to be faithful in sharing the gospel the best we can with as many people as we can. So he goes on. He says, and he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle. That is, those who dwell in heaven. So he's cursing God, and he's being allowed to do this without any revocation, which goes to show you, not everybody's given that freedom. So people who curse God and stuff, a lot of times they end up suffering and dying prematurely, I believe. So anyway, this guy's allowed to do this. He's given authority to do this. We see the same thing picked up in Daniel, I think it's chapter 8, where he's allowed and given authority to do the things he's doing. But it'll come to an end for sure. And it says not by human agency, which we'll see in Revelation 19 is true. It's literally fulfilled. Even back in Daniel, that Antichrist, the end, will come, but not because of some human army who will defeat him. No, he'll have total power, total control in some kind of form of a globalistic government, but he will absolutely come to an end. But it's when Christ comes back himself and has him basically taken, him and the false prophet, and thrown into the lake, which is this intriguing character, which I'll probably do a video on separately with the Antichrist and one of the false prophet, who they are. That way you can spend more time in detail on them. But yeah, we're getting ready to see this false prophet character, which is a companion of the Antichrist, who basically turns the world to him to worship him. So we'll get into that real quick. And it says, anyway, he's blaspheming God. Verse 7, and it was given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation was given to him. So he's a global leader, and that's where we're headed. And I think that's what this whole global climate change stuff is. It's basically a global tax. People are buying into it, and all it is basically, like I was telling you, the government, they're basically this whole globalism and this whole thing that's being pushed by the papacy, by every and all these other denominations of Protestant are falling right in line with it. But it is, so ecumenicalism is basically is the religious aspect of it, to control the religion of the world and to create this kind of worship of man, really, which will be realized in its fullness when they worship the Antichrist. But at the same time, we see this whole global climate change and it's a movement of global government. It's a global tax so they can pay for all these global institutions that are needed so that they can sit and acquire the money to basically finance global government. And that's really what global warming is all about and so forth. And that's what this is going to happen. He's going to have total control over the nations. And their whole ideology, as it were, is built upon, deconstruction of the family, for instance. That's why they push this whole sexual fluidity stuff and everything else. Sexual confusion is what I would call it. So that you can destroy the nucleus of the family, which is one man, one wife, one man, one woman, for life together. That's really what it's designed for. Christ affirmed that when he said, he affirmed what was stated in Genesis, that God created man and woman to be together forever and create this body, this nucleus of a family in which he built societies upon. Well, they want to destroy that nucleus. And that's why they have this whole fluidity and everything else that goes on, and transgenderism and homosexuality and everything goes, and do it thou wilt should be the whole of the law, which is basically going back to Satanism and Aleister Crowleyism and everything else that you see pushed out of Hollywood and out of the music culture and everything else. You'll see them all the way back to the Beatles and everybody else. They were pushing that and supporting, Crowleyism, which is basically Satanism, which was, do what thou wilt is the whole law. You basically become your own God, create your own reality, do your own thing. Basically, you worship yourself. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what they don't realize is they're going to be worshiping Satan, and they'll be worshiping the Antichrist, who will come in the power of Satan. They just don't know that yet, but that's where it's heading. So ecumenicalism is the form of the basis for the global religions of the world to worship basically self and man, and government being that. Global climate change is basically the institution of global government through a global tax. And this whole sexual revolution, and I call it sexual confusion, is the destruction of the family so they can reconstruct society in the image they want. And that's what this whole education system is all built upon, is basically the indoctrination of society and its children to accept this. And it all starts with basically, hey, tell them you don't even know what sex you are. You don't know who your family members are. You don't even know, you don't have a God per se. You start breaking out every aspect of society, from your sexuality to your belief systems to your family structure to your country, your allegiance to your government, to your country. You break down all that because now you become a global citizen. Now you become, you believe that, all gods are equal. There is no God. There is no truth. Everything's relevant. Then relativism becomes important. You don't know what's right or wrong, but what's right for you. Well, that's the whole basis of deconstruction. Destroy every aspect of society so you can rebuild it in this new image, this new world order, as it were, which is really going to be a global world order to worship and believe in Satan. And that's what we see happening. That's what's occurring right in front of us. If you're paying attention, that's what's happening. The whole Arab Spring movement was a rapid movement towards that. This whole thing that's happening with the oil supply, the whole thing with Russia and China and so forth merging. The whole Gog-Magog alliance with Russia and Persia and Turkey and, of all places, Libya and so forth. Think about that. That's the next big battle that's going to come. So we'll do a video on that one. That'll be a separate one. I think it's near, very near. We'll keep going. And he says, so he's able to make an authority over every tribe, people, and tongue, and nation. So he's global in government. He's global in power. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, which is unique. It'll be a form of worship, allegiance to him. We could also see that worship as being an allegiance to him, like they did with Caesar. So he goes on saying, everyone whose name is not written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who is to be slain, basically is going to wind up worshiping this guy. And if anyone has a ear, let him hear. So it's warning you, hey, if you can spiritually hear, you have spiritual discernment, you better be listening. You better be listening to what we're telling you. This is what's going to happen. If anyone is destined for captivity, to captivity he goes. If anyone kills with the sword he must be killed. Here is perseverance and the faith of the saints. So I think at this point, during this time, God's not going to supernaturally impose himself to stop these tribulation saints. Go back to Revelation chapter 7 video. You'll see that I'm talking about. He won't step in and intervene and stop them from being killed and harmed. Where I think he does now. He steps in and he saves a lot of bad things that would happen to Christians. I think he steps in and stops that. And right during this period of time, he won't. It'll be a terrible time in history. And for those who come to faith during the tribulation, like I said, the tribulation saints, Revelation chapter 7 video, watch that. You'll understand what I'm talking about. It's going to be bad. I mean, you're going to have to suffer martyrdom most likely. So you will most likely, in all inevitability, you'll be imprisoned and die and be killed in a brutal fashion during this period of time. Satan will impose that upon the Antichrist to do, and he will not do it. He's going to go after him, and it's going to be pretty bad. For those who are going to be here during that period of time, you got to be faithful to the end and realize that God's not going to intervene. He's going to allow you to be taken, allow you to be, tortured and probably and murdered. So, but there's something much better waiting for you. So, bear with it. Then he goes to verse 7. Then I saw another beast come up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. This is that false prophet I was talking about. He exercised all authority on the first beast, which is the Antichrist, in his presence, and he makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose fatal wound is healed. So he's going to have some kind of authority and power given to him in this period of time that will be religious in nature in a lot of ways. He will demand allegiance to the Antichrist. He's almost like a vice president in a sense, or something like that, in the sense that he's on a global level going to have the power and authority to demand people to have allegiance to him, i.e. worship the Antichrist, as this new concept is happening. How it's going to play out, I don't know, but it's clearly stated, so we need to believe it, because like I said, all the other prophecies are literally fulfilled in detail. This one will too. So be looking for that. So this guy will have a companion who will direct everybody to worship the Antichrist, who's embodied and empowered by Satan. And he goes on to say, he exercises authority on the first beast, the Antichrist, and he makes the earth and all who dwell in it to worship the first beast whose fatal wound was healed. So apparently this Antichrist figure will suffer some type of, and I believe that in the middle of this, 7 year, he's going to be assassinated in a sense. A lot of Christians believe this. He's going to be somehow either shot or stabbed or something. I think, and it's a head wound that talks about he will miraculously, from this fatal wound, come back to life. Now, some people say, well, it looks like it, or it says it's a mortal wound or a fatal wound. So he will come back to life, and the world, and that's when he's actually, I think, at that point, embodied, possessed by demonic beings that comes out of the abyss that it talks about in Revelation 11. We'll kind of jump back, and I said we were going to go back to it, and this is that point. So when I was doing 11, but basically in verses 7, it says, when they had finished their testimony, I'm reading from 11, the beast that comes up out of the abyss will make war with them and overcome them and kill them. The beast that comes out of the abyss, I think, is this Antichrist being or whatever that embodies, and is it Satan himself, who also is the angel who comes down, and has the key to the abyss, Apollyon and all this stuff. Not absolutely clear, but it seems to indicate that this demonic being, because we know there's a demon in him because it comes out of him in chapter 16 and goes out along with these other demonic beings coming out of the false prophet and so forth, and goes throughout the world to deceive the kings of the world, the leaders of the world, to bring their armies to the valley of Megiddo, which we know will be the battle of Armageddon in Israel, in the final climactic battle, as Christ comes back to fight against his return. How they will do that, we'll get into that in chapter 19, why I believe but and what will happen. But in any case, as we go through this, we're like, you start being a wake-up call that this false prophet character, is directing everybody to worship this false beast who's been fatally wounded, comes back to life, and the whole world says, hey, this is amazing. And that's when he goes in, declares himself to be God, and then they set up an idol to him and so forth. And this idol will be some kind of supernatural one, AI oriented, some kind of robotic being, either that or it could just be a massive picture, that seems alive, or it could be some kind of 3D imagery, who knows. But it'll be maybe locked into people's phones and so forth, so that everybody will be able to see it and watch it, and and in essence, be enamored and worship it. And it will know if you don't. I think that's where it falls into the whole allegiance thing. Part of taking of this mark of the beast, which we're going to see, this economic marking system, will be part of allowing you to take it. You have to have an allegiance to it, which is seen as a form of worship. So that's why we don't give allegiances to men. As Christians, we give our allegiance to Christ. We're ambassadors to Him. Our kingdom is not of this world. Our citizenship is in heaven. It's not on this earth. I think sometimes people forget that, and that's why they call themselves American Christians or Russian Christians or Chinese Christians. You're none of those things. Your kingdom is in heaven. Your citizenship is in heaven. Your loyalty is to Christ. Your king is Christ. It isn't to America, the American government, Russia, the Russian government, China, the Chinese government, Iran, or anything else. Your allegiance to each other. We're a brotherhood. I love my Russian Christians, my Chinese Christians, my Iranian Christians just as much as I love American Christians, people who are Christians in America. We're all Christians. We're a brotherhood. We love our sisters in Christ. We love our brothers in Christ. And we don't base that upon our allegiance to a national government. It doesn't mean that we don't respect our governments, which we're called to do in Romans 13 and so forth, and honor them and try to obey the laws. But we don't sign our allegiance over to them because we love our fellow Christians, and we're to love all people. Because it says love your enemies as you love yourself. So, or love others as you love yourself, and to love even your enemies. So you can't do that if you're pointing a bayonet in somebody's face and saying, well, I'm a Russian, or I'm a Chinese, or I'm an American, or whatever. So it's hard to swallow because people have been so indoctrinated to nationalism and this nationalistic endeavor of pride, of patriotism, which could really confuse a lot of people and really cause people to follow man instead of Christ. So don't allow that to happen. I think that's where Christ was warning us about the yeast of the Herodians. Herod. They trusted in government. They trusted in power of government, rather than trusting in the Lord. Anyway, it goes on. It says, and he performs great signs so that he makes fire come down out of heaven inside of earth in the presence of men. That's very intriguing. How does that play out? Is that the whole UFO thing from another planet? We have allegiances now or contacts with beings from another planet? Who knows? Or he's just some kind of super being who's what they call that X-Men or whatever it is. He's developed and evolved to a higher state where he can even have fire come out of the sky or something, or is it UFO in it? I don't know. But whatever it is, it'll be a lie, it'll be a deception to deceive men, to cause them to worship him. And people will go, wow, who can make war with this guy? This guy's amazing. He can actually have fire come out of the sky. You can see it on national TV or whatever. So keep that in mind. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of these signs, which was given to him to perform in the presence of the beast. Okay, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast and who had been wounded with a sword and had come to life. Verse 15, and it was given to him to give breath to this image of the beast, so that the image of the beast, like I said, this whole AI thing or whatever it could be, or who knows, would even speak and cause as many as do not worship this beast or image of the beast to be killed. And he causes all, small and great, rich and poor, and free men and slave, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. And he provides that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of the name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number of that is a number of man, and his number is 666. It's some form of global market system. It's a global economic system that will also cause for worship of this beast. So keep that in mind, that there's going to be, at this point, around that 3.5 year mark or thereabouts, or maybe prior to it, but I think it'll be at that point, they'll institute what's already in place. The technology is there. We already see it already being used at different companies and so forth, where they're putting chips in people's hands. It'll be something like that. Digitally, who knows, some form of, digital tattooing, who knows. But whatever it is, it will be a form of communication and economic market system that allows for you to, and will be tied in with phones, very possibly, but in a sense, you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade. In essence, you won't be able to work without some kind of national, what we now call a national identification, or in America it's called Social Security number, or whatever it is. But you won't be able to do any of those things unless you have this. But you won't have it unless you're part of the system, this global allegiance system to the Antichrist, in which you basically give your allegiance over to him or your worship over to him, because it will be some form of worship. And then this mark will either be given in your hand or your forehead. Your right hand, it specifically says, and your forehead. And I can see where that would make sense. If you're going to mandate something, you're going to have to say, hey, it's going to be very precise. There's only two places you have a choice. It's not you can put it anywhere in your body. It's going to be no, because it's kind of like if you go into a military base, you got to put a ID that goes onto the base at a specific place in your vehicle. Because the guy standing there doesn't want to be looking all over your vehicle trying to find your pass. It's got to be a specific place so he can look at that point for every vehicle and know who needs to come in. And so that way he can actually look at it and make sure it's not a fake one. Well, it's the same thing. The government, if you're going through something, they want it in one place. Everybody has to have it there so they can quickly go through and identify everybody and make sure they're not going to be searching over your whole body trying to find it. So it makes absolute sense that they would say it's going to be in one place or the other. It's either going to be in your forehead or in your right hand. In it, on it, I don't know, but in any case, it'll be something that is tied in digitally, so that they can basically calculate what's going on, what you're doing, who you're worshiping, what you're buying, how much money you either credits or marking or whatever, able to do that. So keep that in mind. And the fact that technology is here right now, go simply look up some videos. You'll see it on YouTube. Technology is here right now, which tells you how close we are, because all those other aspects are right there. So anyway, God bless. Be safe. I hope this has been a blessing to you. If I don't see you in this life, I'll see you in the kingdom to come. And the Lord comes soon. God bless.